forget to record. I'm not forgetting to record today. We record. Okay, so we are actually on air now.
Woo! Hi.
Hi.
So I hear a little echo. Is that on your end?
Is it?
A little bit. That's all right. I'll keep going and maybe, do you have headsets? Okay. Well, for those of you who are listening, and we'll have our hostess back, but yes, I am definitely going to talk about productivity from a totally different perspective. I would say that I did that whole traditional way of productivity, that very masculine way of productivity for a very long time. And I now blend very spiritual pieces into how I look at what kind of success we have. But going back to your question, so my background is I was trained as a molecular biologist, and I spent over 15 years in the biotech industry doing business development and sales. And kind of somewhat simultaneous to that, I was doing, I had very strong spiritual practice, and I was doing these like women's circles and, bringing people. I used to be called, people would call me spiritual midwife. So like I was doing this like very soulful kind of work, but then in my day-to-day, I was making $1 million deals, and
you were a scientist. It's like science and spirit, right? And that's such a unique combination because generally you don't bridge the two.
And for a long time, I didn't bridge the two. And I really had my life compartmentalized. I really didn't bring the science or the business into the spiritual. But I think it found me, right? And even though I started out thinking, I'm going to create this business that's going to be more about the spiritual piece, spiritual transformation, and who, of course, the people who would come to me were people that want to grow businesses or want to have businesses or had already established businesses. So it was I just needed to own it. And so that's why I now, I say soul plus business perfectly together. And
you know what? Can you tell us a little bit about how you owned it? Because I think that so many of us as entrepreneurs or people who are just really trying to find their way, it's like we know it's not like one day you became a spiritual person and then one day you became a biologist and then one day you're like, I'm going to bridge the two. Like, what was that journey like?
Well, it was one day where I decided I'm going to, and this is what happens to me is that I lead spiritual retreats about once a year, and I'm actually one coming up in October. And I did one in January, and I had these rocks that I don't even know where I got the rocks from, but I was giving everybody a rock, and they were to write down what their intention was for the retreat. So these intention rocks. And before everybody showed up, I wrote mine, and I wrote soul plus business. And I was like, duh.
Wow. So it really was like in that moment it was a moment of clarity that came out of you doing your work, just being in the moment of doing your work, right? And then in doing your work, you became your own client almost, right?
Well, I mean, I was already doing that, but it was the fact that I was putting it out publicly that I'm not hiding either of them. I mean, it's not like I was hiding either of them because I was ashamed of them. I think I just didn't really recognize that they just really do go together until that moment. And so, here I am, this is what I do. And people are like, wow, why those two together? And I'm like, honestly, because it's all I know.
Yeah.
It's what I know.
And it makes total sense.
Once you say it, right?
Yeah, once you say it, it's like, okay, that makes sense. And for everyone who's just joining us, I have Asha, who's my guest, our Thrive Entrepreneurs guest expert today. We're going to be talking about productivity, but not productivity in your typical way. We're talking about productivity from a spiritual perspective, really based on the cycles of your personal cycles, right? We're going to learn more about that. And so Asha's just sharing a little bit about herself, but let's talk a little bit about what does it mean to be productive? Like, what is productivity?
That's a great question. It's movement. Movement closer to what we desire is not always linear, but it's movement closer. So is it a little bit of a different definition than productivity? Yeah, because we tend to think of it like getting shift done, as you say.
Exactly. Getting shit done. Getting shit done. That's what we're talking about, is getting shit done today from a spiritual perspective. Yes. Okay.
And trust me, I love that. I mean, nothing makes me more excited than to feel like, holy cow, I've accomplished this. Here's this thing that is fully formed and I've worked towards it, or I've collaborated with other people to work towards it. And I'm going to jump into the way I look at it, because I think we have to go with cycles. We have to go.
What was that?
Somebody's having a temper tantrum up there.
I didn't hear anything. So your mom as well.
Okay.
Are you a mom of one or two? How many kids do you have? Two. Okay. And one is little, I take it.
Well, they're 10 and 13, so it's not quite a temper tantrum. I don't even know what do you call that? You know?
Oh yeah, it's still a temper tantrum, Mama. It's still, mine's 16 and he still has temper tantrums. So
anyway, that's what we roll with here. We roll with those cycles too, right? Because, well, I think that's honest, and I don't know if the people who listen to you are mothers, or, I mean, as a woman, we have so many different phases in our lives, and our work is affected by it, right? Or our families are affected by our work, and vice versa. And being able to be present to what is real, I think, is one of the greatest gifts that I've been able to give myself. The Monday night or Tuesday night, I was on another interview, and literally my kid was like on the other side of the computer, and this was going like this. Like, she was like, I was like, I can't even believe that I am keeping a straight face. But the truth is that that's our reality. And how do we roll with it? How do we still stay in productivity? How do we still stay in movement and moving towards what we want, what we desire, what we're here to like offer the world, and also stay present to our families? So the way that I have learned to, which I'm going to share with you, is 9-Star Key. And I'll just show you this. This is one of my favorite books. I actually learned from John Sandifer. And this 9-Star Key is originally a Japanese divination system. And we use it in Feng Shui to really understand the nature of the person. And by the nature of the person, I mean, like, is this person more fiery? Is this person more earthy, more water, more metal? And based on that combination of who they are, it's dependent upon like when you're born, you have a sense of what kind of person you are and what really feeds you. But what I find most profound is that every year you enter into a specific cycle. And sometimes that cycle is in alignment with your nature, and sometimes it's not, but it also has a certain energy about it. So for instance, you...
So Asha took my birthday. We were talking about scheduling, and she said, oh, by the way, send me your birthday. And I'm thinking, okay, so I'm not quite sure what that has to do with productivity, but then she said that we were going to talk about mine. So are you going to share that right now?
Yes. Okay. So, and for anybody here who is like dying to, like, I don't know how many people are on and will be on, but if you do send me an email, I will run it for you, and I will tell you what yours is. So you have an idea.
Okay, so what I want to make sure that we do before we get off, I want to make sure that people have your information and they know how to contact you and so how to send you that information. Okay. And then
Beautiful.
Anthony Bryce says, "Yay, thank you." So
you
already have one taker.
Yay! It will. Okay, one thing I know about feng shui and nine star key, and I have been at this for 12 years, is that it changed my life because it allowed me to accept a piece of myself and to be able to walk into each year knowing what can I expect and what am I working with. So for you, you are a 9 fire. That's your
I'm not surprised by the fire, but okay.
Yeah. Even like your look, right? Like your hair and like very fire energy. Okay. But you have a 914. So there's 3 numbers. I'm not going to get too much into the numbers, but basically the 1 is water, and it's that that place where we go to when we're under stress. So some of us have you have more watery energy, so you can potentially tend to go into like super murky water, like the Scorpio-ish kind of energy. And then the 4 tree is like essentially the 4 tree is like a big oak tree, and it just stands firm and just sort of waves as the wind hits it, right? And so people see you as solid. People see you as a stoic. But your overriding energy is the 9 fire. So each year you go through different cycles, and right now you are in the cycle of 2 soil. And so think about this. Okay, so 1 is water, which is our movement.
What's your daughter? Will you introduce your daughter to us?
You want to come say hello? No, she doesn't. So 1 is, water. It's the movement, right? It can be the ocean. It can be the rivers. 2 is that soil when we're preparing the seeds, and we're preparing the seeds. We're preparing the ground. We're getting ready to just like really, it's a preparation year. 3 is where you plant the seeds and they're sprouts, so things are beginning to come out. 4 is like you got your trees, like things are still growing. 5 is soil. It's kind of karmic piece where you stop, right? Like you've had all this growth and you stop, and so it sort of keeps going into these different phases. But for you, you're in the year of 2 soil, which means that this is the year where you start preparing the ground.
Oh, that's totally where I am. Like that is, and it's interesting because so when people give you their birthday, what you'll do is they'll say, for me, I'm 6/28/73, right? And when they give you their birthday, you're going to, and you're a Cancer too, aren't you? Aren't you a Cancer?
Yes.
So Mama Bear, I totally get that. And we have, hey, if anyone else is out there that's a mom, I see Kathleen Gage, nice to have you here, Deborah C. Johnson, Deb Mundy, Chef Cooking, Anthony, I know you're not a mom, and we have Love Fuel, so Jessica Riverson, we have some cool people here, so if you're a mom, give a quick shout out. Yes, Amanda, we get it, like we all get it. If they're not a mom, they have a mom, so they get it.
It's all good, right?
It's all good. It's totally all good. So from a productivity, when we look at this from a productivity standpoint, then we're looking at if I'm in a 2 year, which is soil, which is really which is preparation of the soil, right, for future growth. We're not harvesting yet. We're preparation. Is that where I am?
That's where you are. And so say for instance, if you are growing a new business, if most of us want it to happen, and we want it to happen right away, and and if right now you don't have a full practice, or you don't have the kind of revenue that you expected for the year, it can cause a lot of frustration. But if you know that in fact this is the year where you're preparing the soil, then prepare the freaking soil.
Oh yeah, that's really good.
Prepare the soil and be conscious and cognitive of what you're choosing to prepare, right? Because that's
yeah,
so, like,
totally.
what are you preparing? What's a, so, like, do you want to do podcasts? Do you want to write more? Like, start, like, going to those places. Yay!
Yay!
Start going to those places.
Amanda Long said, "Oh my God, yeah." So this is so resonating, and I think for a lot of us, so you're actually talking about my specific cycle of this year, right? But when we look at me as an example, so if I'm planting my soil, right, and you said so the different stages are you're either planting your soil, you're harvesting.
Yeah, so
What are
there's right. I can keep going. So there's the 3 tree, which I don't know. I tend to love because it's like, yeah, stuff is happening, you know?
okay? Yeah, me too. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I
yes,
mean, we
yes,
all
yes.
do. We're sort of trained from our society to like love progress and visual progress.
Because that's what productivity is, right? And we
Yeah,
put some sort of value on when you're productive, you're doing shit, you're making it happen. It means that you're active, you're not lazy. Like it says all these things. When we put a title of this is a productive person, we create that to mean something really special. And when you're not productive, then it's on the opposite side. So then we go into this almost, I don't want to say depression, but we go into this space
yeah,
of
I think
if you're
so.
not productive, you're kind of an L word, right? And so now we're taking it to a space of this will be recorded. Love Fuel Life, this will be recorded for you, sweetie. So we'll make sure to post it in the Thrive group. But it's really being a little more gentle on yourself to say, you know what, I'm in a space because what you said is resonating with me. I was making a lot of money, had done all of these things, and I won't go into my resume right now, but had done really great things. And in the, September of last year, I left a year-long contract, which was really great for me, and then immediately had this shift of new clients coming in. And then about 4 or 5 months ago, I had this the clients ended and it was like, okay, now Naja, you're going to be mindful about really
Mm.
formulating what your business is. You're not going to, I was blessed with referrals and things just coming my way and never had to do the preparation, never had to really prepare the soil. And so I consciously said, you know what, you're going to really create your brand and you're going to really look at what is it that you want this business to be. Because if you're going to be a consultant, if you're going to be a mentor, if you're going to be a coach, I don't want to do it reactionary, right?
Yes.
So, and I want it to be a bona fide business. And so what's resonating with me is the soil is in such preparation. And
Yeah.
being the type of personality that I have, I'm like, come on, I'm ready to like pull up and start cooking all of the stuff in the kitchen, you know, have a nice little stir fry with all the vegetables that have grown abundantly, you know? So, okay, this is great. Now I want to just rewind just a little bit and talk about, well, actually, that's okay. That's okay. Let's continue with where you are. Let's continue with where you are.
So, you know, and so, okay, so plant the soil, have some shoots coming out, things are rising, then you come into this place of the five soil, which is a karmic year, which you start paying attention to, like, okay, what have I done up to this point, and what's the stuff that comes up, old stuff that comes up. So people will see like, oh, I don't understand. Like I thought I was done with this, and here it's coming back up again, and it's coming back up so that we heal it. And then we move into six metal year, which is the year of authority, the year of where you can profess yourself as the expert. Then it's 7 metal, which is the year where you get to travel and you get to have fun, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, that's such a fun year to have, like, especially for someone like me. Like, I'm so serious, and to be able to like have a year where I'm like, yes, this is about travel and it's about fun. And then we move into 8 soil, which is a very spiritual inner year, and a year of, again, almost like karmic in that way, where you assess at a deeper, more spiritual level. And then finally, the 9 fame year that you represent, which is about fame. It's the time when you can publish your book. It's the time when, if you're looking for a job, your resume is going to go to the top at all times. You're going to be noticed. And as you can imagine, all of this can have out of balance phase, right? And if we're not conscious of what it is that what kind of soil you want to prepare, or what kind of spiritual practices you want to do, then it can be off balance. So that is one place where I began this thing of productivity, is understanding where you are in your own cycle. So that's number one.
Quick question. Are those,
yeah.
So those are not consecutive. It doesn't happen like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it happens consecutively wherever you are this year.
They do. Yeah. So for you, you just happen to be in a 2 soil cycle. So next year will be 3. So starting in February, you'll be into 3, which you'll love because you'll start seeing results, right? And so every February we change. It basically goes by the Chinese calendar.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. What happens when you're in a state of a 2, right? So I'm preparing the soil, but you have a family, you have to take care of business, you have to make money. Like, so then what happens when the reality is I just need to be productive. Like, I get the planning of the soil, and I get that I need to create this whole, what it's going to look like for the bigger vision of what I want to create. But in the meantime, how the hell do I make shift happen, right?
Well, you have to make the right partnerships. Again, it goes back to like, what is that energy? And if that energy is of preparing the soil, then it's about making the right kind of partnerships. So having conversations like this, where you get to feel into, is this someone who I would want to continue working with? Like, this is the perfect thing, and you're getting stuff done. You're still, addressing and serving your community. And also with the intention of like, is this someone who I want to continue working with? And is this a medium that I would want to continue working with? Right? Maybe not. Maybe I'm done with the video because my kids have their temper tantrums every night, and I really need to just like be on audio only so nobody knows what's happening. Or maybe I kind of like this, that people see the realness of what it's like to be an entrepreneur mama.
So in addition to the preparation, it's also just kind of setting the intentions for what you want. It's also just being in action, right? And it's always being in action.
I think you can. I mean, I think most of us, again, are trained to want to be in action. I get it. I really get it. I don't like stagnation. It bothers me. And it's also kind of my personality. And I also accept that at some moments in our lives, that stillness is important. So some people, it sounds like your community is totally groovy with spiritual things, but right now we're in a Mercury retrograde, right? And there was a podcast that I was being interviewed in, and he started off talking about the Mercury retrograde and, how do you manage that? And I said, it's my time of going inward, and it's my time of practicing surrender. And it doesn't mean that I become a victim to mishaps in communication. I just take it in of like, okay, something's off about certain communications, and I'm just taking it in. I don't make big decisions during the retrograde. I don't jump on anything. I just take information in, and I surrender as much as possible. That's hard for me.
Wow. So it's a conscious decision, right? It's a conscious decision.
But it's a conscious decision, and I'm using the influences that are alive for me right now. For all of us, like right now, we're all in the retrograde. So whether you believe this or not, you'll see things happening. It's kind of crazy.
Wow. Okay, so we have Sarah Thompson said, "Hi, Asha."
Hi.
Love Fuel Life said, "That's me," and I think what she's saying is that's me, as far as like where you are in the just making a conscious decision, knowing that okay, there's certain things that are happening in my life, and I have to be gentle. It's not my personality, but this is what I need to do for that self-care. And then Deborah Cherry said, "Groovy is the word."
Groovy is the word.
Groovy is the word. Okay, so we're going into a lot of, and I know that we have another aspect that you bring into the productivity conversation that's a part of the feng shui component. But let's talk. There's so many elements that you have to start looking at, right? So you look at, Mercury is in retrograde, and then I'm in a 9 or in a 2 soil, and then there's something else. Like, how do you manage all of that? Do we hire someone like you who can say, okay, so here's the outline of your life for this year, and here's what it's going to look like, and this is what you're going to be looking at to map it out?
I mean, I think it helps. I will say that I think it does help. And on a day-to-day, it's about paying attention to where we are. Even if you never heard of this 9-star key, but now you have. So now you know it's out there. So now you're going to know about this, and hopefully it'll influence you. But if you don't even know about it, then if you start paying attention to your own cycles, even for us women, it's like if you look at your own lunar cycle, that's what we call it in this house. We're very groovy over here. I got my belly cast.
That's awesome. I love them. The lunar cycle, AKA.
You pay attention to that, and certain days are not going to be days to get stuff done.
So it's listening to your body, it's listening to what's happening, and it's not pushing. When something in your mind, your body, your spirit is saying, there's something off tilt, it might be time to just take a moment and step back, right? And just, if you don't, now we do know that we do have this information, and we do know how to gain more access to the bigger picture of it. But if you didn't, it's just being mindful, right?
Yeah, it is being mindful and understanding the influences of what's around us. And I don't know if this is going to be a little too controversial for this group, but
my group is pretty groovy. Just FYI, they go with the flow.
Maybe this also questions the grooviness sometimes.
Okay.
Because I know I went through a huge phase where I was really uncovering, like, what did it mean for me to be an intuitive person? And I didn't really, it's not like I went to school for this, right? Like, this is something that, I try to learn different spiritual modalities and, learning different books or reading different books. But to understand one's intuition, it's really an experiment.
Yeah.
And in that experiment, I feel that we're in this phase of people saying, oh, I'm listening to my body and it's not feeling right. And especially as business owners, this whole, like, it's not feeling right, but I can't pay my bills. I really question that. I really challenge that, because I think that we have so many conditioning programs running that things, maybe it's like, oh, it doesn't feel right. And so then it's like, I say that, and then people are like, oh, then what am I supposed to do? Right? Like, what am I supposed to do with all this information that's coming at me? And I'd say discernment, right? Discernment. And this is where the beautiful relationship of having a coach like you or having somebody like me, where someone can really hold you to the questions.
So let me ask you then, am I hearing you correctly in saying, when you start to feel that space of, something's not right, and yet you want to push into it because you've got to pay the bills and you've got a family to take care of, that, like, is there space? Is there a time to push? Is there a time to say, no, you know what, I'm not feeling, okay, but put your big girl panties on and let's just plug ahead? Or is it not only self-caring, but also just into the bigger picture of what you create for yourself as a human being? Is it just the quote-unquote right thing to do? And I don't believe in right or wrong or should or shouldn't, but really, like, the thing to do for the bigger picture of growth, to just stop.
I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah.
What I know is that if we stand in truth as much as possible, and if we have people who hold us to truth, like that truth of being really aligned, that's the only place where we can answer things. I can tell you that I take people through a specific curriculum. I mean, something that I've seen that works. And it's a little bit of like breaking them a little.
Yeah.
Like saying like, no, we're not going to mess with, like, it doesn't feel right. If you're not paying your bills, then it's not going to feel right to do the work. Or if you're not reaching your financial goal or your fulfillment goal or your balance goal, and it's got you have to be willing to deprogram. And, you know, for me, deprogramming is a practice of presence, which is, if you read Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now, it's essentially his work, but taken into an experiential piece. And you could call it meditation, right? Deprogram yourself via meditation, and begin to really ask the question of what is in the now, really. What is truth in the now? Because if we're doing productivity for the sake of for doing stuff,
right,
like it's not very effective. It's not movement. That's like, you know, like kind of chasing your tail, right? It's not really movement. It's just being busy work.
I'll give you an example for myself. I would say, so summertime, right? My son is out of school, and when my son is out of school, it's kind of playtime for all of us. And so I try and give myself some space for that. But I also know that I still need to be in action for creating my, running my business. And this summer was just like the last, I would say, 2 months. I went from being on fire, to really just almost questioning what's happened. I not only was there not a lot of action within my business, but just within myself, there was a lot of questioning. Not even, is this the right thing? Because I know that this is the right thing, but it was questioning, what do I do next? The stuff that I do without thinking for my clients was a challenge for me to do for myself. And so it was like weeks of full days of me looking back and saying, what the hell did I accomplish today? Totally unproductive, feeling completely unproductive. And what I realized, I actually spoke to a friend, coach of mine the other day, who didn't tell me ne'er a thing that I didn't already know, but she held me in a space that was so bright and so loving. And within maybe 4 hours, I went into nausea mode, which is getting shit done, right? And so sometimes it's really, like you said, it's like surrounding yourself with people who are holding you to your greatness without pushing you to your greatness or telling you what your greatness is or forcing anything on it, but they're just literally just being in that space with you, and then allowing wherever you are to come to light. And so these last several days, I've been like back, right? So I really love what you're saying. Amanda Long says, I think it's hard to be in it and see the big picture. Having a coach helps you see that. Yeah, absolutely. I believe every coach needs a coach. I believe that no matter how good of a coach you are, I don't care what kind of baseball coach, business coach, spiritual coach, we all need someone who can guide us and mentor us through wherever we are. So yeah, I'm in that with you, Amanda. Definitely.
And I mean, even in the evolution of the coach, I'll tell you, when I started 10 years ago, people were like, huh, what is it that you do? Yeah. And now it's like, oh my gosh, could this be such a blessing that this is saturated with beautiful people who are just like here ready to like help one another, and we're getting paid for this? Like, this is, I mean, I don't know. This is amazing work. This is the universal work. This is God's work. Like, this is beautiful.
It is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Okay, so tell us what the next phase is of how you incorporate what you do to help people get into that space of productivity or clarity around being productive.
Priorities. When you know your cycle, if you want to look at your lunar cycle and those weeks when you're going to be like, no problem, I got this, is being able to be clear on the priorities. I know everybody says that, and then it's like, when you're in the middle of it, somebody said it's so hard to be in it and see the bigger picture, right? Yeah. Here's a productivity hack.
Okay.
Is to take a big piece of paper, like one of those like, you know,
3M, the 3M sticky papers.
yes,
Yeah, I have those
love
all over. I love them too. They're
I
genius.
love
Whoever
those.
created that is a genius. And
Oh my gosh.
Deborah Cherry just tried to pop in, and I don't know if you had a challenge getting in, but we'd love to have you sit in with us. And anyone who'd like to jump into the conversation, please, you're welcome.
Nice. And so take one of those big pieces of paper and start writing. And if you want to take out markers, whatever, like just get creative.
All over the colors. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and just start writing everything that is on your mind. Like this brain dump. Like brain dump everything that's on your mind that you know you got to get done, and you don't know quite where it's going to happen, and just put it everywhere, like randomness. And that's step one. Step two is then go back and circle the ones that are really essential. Like sort of like that A, B, and C level of priority, right? Like A is like, this has to get done, and circle that in a certain color. And then, you know, level of priority B, go another color and circle those. And then there's your priority list. So that's it.
So like, this is actually like, so we went into kind of the woo-woo, right? The woo is, okay, so it's looking at the cycles and being really clear on that and being at ease when you're in the soil and pushing when you, but now we're like, this is the stuff that's more tangible. And this is the stuff that,
and when what's awesome about it's tangible, but keep using it throughout your cycle. Because if you're in the cycle where you're going more inward and you see that some of your priorities about writing, that's a perfect time. When you're inward, write. Right? And if some of the other stuff is about like, oh, networking or connecting or whatever, or wanting to interview other people or be interviewed, then tap into that when you know that your energy is going to be in a great place. Now, granted, for me tonight, maybe Thursday night, you know, it's my cranky time here in my home. Not perfect night, but we rolled with it, right?
Yeah. And honestly, I so appreciate, because it's 9 o'clock. So Asha's on the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast. And so for 9 o'clock is late, and you have a family. So I'm so grateful for you taking the time to be here and knowing that, you know, family is going to need you. So thank you. Anthony Bryce, we appreciate you, Asha.
Oh, that's so nice. But listen, I want you to hear this because I'm in my 4-tree cycle. Okay. So this is my time to push. Now next year, Thursday night, 9 p.m., I might be like, maybe not. Can you do this on a Friday at 10 a.m.?
But now, okay, let's talk about how will you, knowing the year that you're in, if I give you a call next year this time and we schedule a time, will you know energetically that probably won't work, or does it just kind of happen in the moment? Like,
well, I mean, I'm pretty conscious that my 3 and 4 year are powerful years for me to get stuff done. Like for really big movement, right? And my energy is too soil. So like literally that mother energy is like all that I'm about. And I'm happy in my home. Like, make no mistake about it. As much as I love people and I love interacting with people, and I love learning and going to conferences, this is where I love to be.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Okay, so Amanda says, how do we find our cycle again? I was listening in my car at the time. So Amanda Long, Asha actually graciously offered anyone who would like to know what their cycle is, you can send your birthday to her and we'll find out, but at the end of our time together, what that is. So make sure you connect with her directly.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do that for you guys. It's super fun for me to like let people know about this because it changed my life. So that's, you know, so you have the brain dump, you have your level of priorities, and then you can start pulling out those priorities based on when you feel like it. So that's when you can bring in that it doesn't feel right. Okay, well, maybe if it doesn't feel, but you said it was a priority.
Right. Okay.
You said that to yourself. So if it doesn't feel right now, when does it feel right? Instead of just like putting it off to the side and saying, I'm not doing that, I recommend, you know, nudging ourselves into the truth. Because I know, like, for instance, okay, being vulnerable. I want to speak more. I'm a little lazy about looking for opportunities where I could speak more. But it's a priority for me. So that's the place where I have to nudge myself. Now, even as I'm saying that, I feel a little heat, like,
oh, good. Well, hopefully the heat is us supporting you in really going toward that, because, I mean, just listening to you now, the information that you have is so critical for people to learn. And one of the greatest ways, right, is to just get on the platform and talk about it. And so it's needed information. It's important.
And we all have that thing, right? We all have that genius, that piece of us that we're needing to exercise a certain way. So I just shared with you that for me, maybe it's a little more speaking, but for some other people, it may be writing, even blogging. It may be about connecting with people in person or virtually, whatever it may be, or creating a Facebook group. Whatever it is that people in your community tend to do is, like, we all have these places of genius, and if you are hearing me and if you don't feel a connection to speaking, but there's something else that there's truth for you to be doing, that's where I would ask that you allow yourself to be nudged into that.
I love that. So Love Fueled Life says, what about if it feels right, but things still aren't moving?
It feels right and things are not moving. Where you see that?
So she's a little further up. So it's actually about 8-10 questions up. Love Fueled Life. What about if it feels right, but things still aren't moving?
Well, try something else.
Oh!
What?
Isn't it? But no, sometimes we complicate things, right? We being these humans. What if, like, listen to this. I just want to say this again, because I know sometimes I make a big deal out of little things, but really because it's really important. What about if it feels right, but things still aren't moving? Then try something else. That just seems. Love Fueled Life. How does that feel for you when Asha says, then try something else?
Well, I know my husband has a phrase, right? That I know people say spaghetti, but he uses another word. And he just said, and he says, just throw stuff up on the wall and see what sticks.
So Love Fueled Life says it feels like failure.
So it feels like failure to try something else. You can come back to the other thing when there's maybe for you, it depends, right? It depends the kind of person you are. And I'm going to bring another element of the grooviness that I love, and it's our Dharma type. Dharma type is this work that I've been really speaking about a lot lately, and it's not. I didn't. This isn't my creation. It comes from my Sufi teacher, John Wyrick, and he looks at Dharma types, meaning our purpose archetype, as a way for us to activate what we're here to do. And if we are trying to do something that isn't quite what is natural for us, then we tend to go into these, sabotage or, these situations that aren't quite flowing with who we are. And I have to bring up this other thing of karma. And whether you believe in past lives or not, it doesn't really matter. But the truth is that some people you see them as old souls. Yeah. And then some people are like, oh my gosh, that's such a new soul. Like, you could just tell there's a level of innocence, and, they're just very, very different, and they're exploring life very differently. So what is that? Why? Even if you don't believe in past lives, like, what is it about that person? Something about them. They're hardwired to be wise beings. And what I see is that the soul travels, or the soul has experiences. And in those experiences, some of them are life enhancing, or they add to our dharma, our purpose. And some experiences are traumatic, and they cause a vibration of trauma or karma. So karma, I look at it not so much as like you did something crappy, and so now crappy things are happening to you, but it's that crappy thing happened in another time, and you are kind of holding the vibration and the frequency to this thing. And the most powerful thing we can do is to name it, name that resistance, name that failure, really claim it.
Wow.
As this happened to me, or this is happening to me, and to truly allow it to be healed because you spoke it.
Okay, so
Without,
let me ask you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, would it look something like this? I'm trying to do X, right? So as the question was, it feels right. Things aren't moving. I should try something else. It makes me feel like a failure doing that. And so from that space, that's when so it's just being conscious of the feeling that's happening within you, right? When you have that feeling of, I feel like a failure because it feels right, it's not moving, I move on, now I feel like a failure. And so now the next step for what you're saying is get clear on the past, like what it may have been from a past life perspective.
And it doesn't even matter. It could be this life, right? Because we all have negative imprinted memories or repeating patterns, right? Meet the same kind of man kind of thing. Enter into a business, fail, or whatever. Like we have these these patterns that we keep repeating. So it's not hard. It's not hard for most of us to know what those patterns are. But what I think is simple and simplistic and very powerful is, hey, Jackie, is to name it, claim it, and then heal it. And just by our words, we get to just heal that. And so, okay, so then what I know that many of us do is that we become really attached to certain stories. Oh, it's my pattern is I select crappy men. And so this is my story, and it's my story, and it's my story. And the truth is that you only really had to say it once. We don't have to keep saying it over and over and over and over, because that's suffering, right? Mm-hmm. But being in the truth and being in the now and claiming it, saying it, whatever, however it is that I said it, that's the moment. It's healed. So now move on. Does that help?
It totally helps. And Jackie, we would love for you to watch the replay. We'd love for you to join us in our Thrive community over on Facebook. It's Thrive Entrepreneurs. Just you could do a quick little search and stay connected. And we wish you a really great night. So thanks for popping in for a little bit. And then Love Fuel Life says, because there's no financial gain, but I am building amazing business relationships. It's just moving very slow. And I'm wondering, so there is no financial gain. And we're talking about productivity, and that can mean so many things, right? So when you look at productivity, the end result generally, hopefully, is completion of something. As entrepreneurs, productivity leads us to making money, generally, right? Mm-hmm. Doing all the things that you need to do, with really the outcome being having a profitable business. And so
I would suggest changing the model. If it's not profitable, I mean, that's the only thing that matters when we're in business. Like, if you're not profitable, you're not bringing money home. So I would say change the model. Look at the model.
Yes.
Just look at the model. Maybe the model, it needs to be in better alignment with who you are. Like, I know a lot of people who want to be coaches, and they're like, well, the model is I have to have one-on-ones with people once a week, and I just can't sustain that energy. Well, then that's not your model. You're not going to make money if you're exhausted. right? So then what is your model? Well, let's look at that. Look at what could be a model that works with your genius, with your dharma, and that you can really fit into your life. I mean, if you have babies and you're at home with babies and you think that you're going to be able to like squeeze in like 20, 30 clients on the phone, like you're not going to be able to do that. Trust me.
Right,
I've tried that, and I've had a lot of conversations in closets. It just doesn't happen.
I get it. I totally get it. Yes, I totally get that. You know what? So let's Love Fuel Life asks again, how much time do you give it for? How do you give for it to work? And that sounds like it's really looking at your own cycle. I think there are a lot of variables.
I will tell you that I failed at my first business. Mm-hmm. And it was frustrating as hell to watch something that I poured every ounce of who I was. I mean, I interviewed, I don't know if you know Dr. Bruce Lipton. I interviewed him. I interviewed Bob Doyle, who was in The Secret. And this was a childbirth course that I'd put together like 10 years ago. And it failed miserably.
Yeah, that's where the lessons are, I think.
Painful. It was not fun to go through. And I was like, I'm ahead of my time. Like, what is this? And it wasn't fun. That was 10 years ago, and it was not fun. And I had to dip back into corporate, and, and then I ran a business with my husband, and then we went in different directions, and I had to dip back into corporate, and it wasn't that fun to go through all that. And I wouldn't be honest and say, just try something different. I mean, you do try something different. Try it here, try it there. If a wall's hitting and you need to like eat and your children need to eat, or, you need to have money, then it's okay. Get a job, but like keep a sense of where you want to keep going, and make sure that to some degree you feed that thing that you love. Keep feeding it. Keep writing about it. Keep having conversations about it. Keep it alive in some sense.
Let's talk a little bit, and this is a little bit off of the productivity conversation, but let's talk for a second about wanting to give everything away for free versus starting to charge, because that's really where you start to build your business, is making the money. And I totally believe that we do certain things for free. We have labs, we have groups that we invite people into, and it's really about us getting our message out and building our tribe so that we have people to actually sell to, right? Mm-hmm. So, but at what point is it too much? You're giving too much away, and it's just time to just start like buckling down. Because I think at some point it's kind of fear of asking, or maybe they won't pay me, and so can you talk to that?
Yeah. So I don't know if I'll have a chance to talk about it, but I do have a free training right now that's happening, and I go into that. But I'm going to share a little bit, and that is that I believe what I've noticed throughout, my 15 years of looking at businesses is that there's two pricing models. One is portfolio building.
Okay.
Right. So I used to coach a lot of photographers. And so it's like, okay, you bought a professional camera and you're taking photos. Do not charge what the seasoned photographers charge, because that's not right. Your photos are not as good, right? Yeah. So what does that mean? I mean, that doesn't mean you can't charge. It just means you're in portfolio building. Okay. And if you're just starting out and no one is hiring you to take their photos, then you do 1 to 5 for free so that you build a portfolio. Once you build this portfolio, then you begin to, do pricing that's according to your level of expertise and the level of results that you offer. And it's okay if you don't make millions for people when you first start out. You are in portfolio building. You're learning. Be with wherever it is that you are in the cycle of your profession, right? And then this is when I know when you gotta raise your rates. If 99% of people are saying yes, it's time.
It's totally time. It's totally
It's
time. Okay, that's
time.
good. That's really good. Okay, Asha, I feel like we could talk forever, and there's like 3 more minutes, but I have some questions, and now I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to go anywhere. So what I want to do is jump into these questions that I have
Yeah.
from our group, and make sure that they get answered. So Amanda Long, who's a thriver, says, I always feel guilty during downtime, like I should be doing something on my growing business. I work full time. I'm a wife and a mom and starting my new business. I feel I have to always be working because my business is new and there's always something to do. But then I find myself burnt out with no ideas. I take a break and my ideas flow again. What are tips to balancing all of this and not feeling guilty when I'm taking time for me or my family?
Yeah, guilt is a biggie. And I don't know how does one say, can you just forgive yourself? And it's you are not a robot. You don't have a on and off. You are human, and it's natural to have moments of stillness and rest. And in fact, I would say that you definitely need them.
Yeah.
You definitely need those people who are going to hold you and support you and nurture you and receive that.
I like that. And I know Amanda's on now, so I hope that was helpful for you. She said, for sure, my husband always tells me when he notices I need a break.
Okay, good.
I have someone that's nurturing in that way. And also, what about being proactive in putting that into your daily self-care routines so that you don't get to that point where someone physically is looking at you and saying, you need a break. But you take those breaks before maybe you even quote unquote need them. Like scheduling it in, exactly. Like, especially as a mom, I mean, I'm looking at like, okay, you're a mom, a business owner, you're a wife, you're doing all of these things, and you have a job, and then somehow you're not supposed to be tired. And so, I would say put some me time in there for you, right?
And you know what? One thing I learned, I'm half Indian, half Venezuelan. And I grew up in Venezuela, and I really don't know a ton about Indian culture, which people look at me and they're like, what? What do you mean? But I went to India in 2009, and I found out that Fridays are the day of Divine Mother. And I was like, well, what does that mean? Oh, no, the woman, the mom, it stays home, like she's just like cared for, and we do these pujas for Divine Mother. And I've just instituted that for me. Like, I don't do pujas or anything like that, but Friday is my day, even if it's just an hour. Even if I'm, my Friday is like super scheduled, but there's something I do that's like yummy and delicious just for me. And one of my favorite things is meeting somebody for tea or coffee, right? Even if it's, even if I have meetings but just like, hey, let me go meet you here. Or I just sit on my own and just like have like a place that I love. But Fridays like that's the place where it's like, okay, we can be like practical and say Fridays will take a little bit, but the energy of Friday actually supports us too. So that's what I blend in the two.
I love it. Okay, so Friday is me time for everyone.
We'll start a revolution.
Absolutely. I'm in that revolution. I'm totally in that revolution. Friday me time, exactly. Okay, so Crystal Lynn Bell had a question. She says, the new moon in Virgo makes me think that it's time to really challenge the sloppy aspects of my daily meditation, health, and work practice. Right now, work is taking a priority, and honestly, it has for the last month, which is really messing up my meditation and exercise rhythm. Right now, I'm in project mode with a deadline, but I'm wondering how Asha would recommend using the lunar energies to improve my personal work routine. Today, I thought I'll start going to the gym at night and letting my work have the morning, but it's so easy to get foiled, isn't it? Like it's 5:30 and I'm still working up.
So how I use the moon, I mean, it's kind of classically, new moon is time of intention. Full moon is like, what didn't work? and what am I, kind of done with and ready to take on something else. So, okay, new moon, my intention is I want to have some sense of quiet. That sounds like what she's asking is like, how do I have that sense of quiet, even though I know that my month is going to be crazy? So that's the intention. How do I having a sense of quiet and stillness, even though I know it's going to be jam-packed? And so then you come to the full moon and you're like, okay, what worked? What didn't work? And it's funny. I have a consulting client and they are so not into the moon and 9-star and all of that. Like, they're a big company. They're like a $12 million business. And so like, I can't go in say new moon, it's the new moon. So, but what I do say is like, let's set intentions. And then I know it's the full moon and I'm like, listen guys, it's been a couple weeks. Let's figure out what worked, what didn't work, and what are we moving towards to, to sort of make it a good month. Right.
Yeah.
So like that's, go ahead.
No, I love how really it's listening to yourself. So what I really heard was it's listening to yourself, listening to your body and what your needs are. It's being in a space of being able to be quiet and also knowing when you have to push a little bit, right? And it's just like, it almost feels like common sense. Like everything is just telling you how to move. It's telling you when to stop. It's telling you when it's time to plant. It's telling you when it's time to prepare the soil, and whether it's taking a Friday me time or it's knowing the moon cycles and when that time of ease is needed, just listen, take care of yourself, and then you'll start to have productivity won't feel so difficult. It won't feel like such a job, right?
Yeah. And what are the expectations, right? So it's like, I actually, Thursday night is lower your standards night around here.
Okay, so we have Friday me time and Thursday lower your standards.
So it's like, yes, what you guys saw of a child falling apart on right here is like that par for the course, on a Thursday night. Homework, maybe it doesn't happen. It's Thursday night, people. So if you know you're going to be having a jam-packed month and you're like, I need to like work out, go to yoga and meditate, but really that's not realistic for that month. So how can you have an essence of that, a thread of that, and just lower your standards a little bit?
I love it. And then we all need to go out and get the 3M pads and just start to put down all of our essentials. What do we need to accomplish? And then prioritize and make it visual and however it works for you. For me, I love the colors and I love like.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay, Asha, we are at our time, and I'm like, no. But what I would love to do is for you to share how people can get in touch with you and tell us a little bit about your program that you have going on.
Sure. So I keep forgetting what the can I put the link in the?
Yeah, you can. So if you go over to the right. Actually, you can type it in. Okay. Type something cool.
There we go.
Like okay.
All right, there.
Perfect.
So there are two amazing things that I'm working on right now. And one is this free video training called Uncover and Monetize Your Inner Genius. And literally, I take the process that I take people through of the spiritual piece and then the very practical piece, and super condensed. And that's really hard for me because I'm a very verbose person, but I was like, I got to keep these videos to 10 minutes. And, you have the PDFs associated with it. And it's, and my intention is just to serve people. My intention is just to give back and have people be showered with this possibility that we can live our purpose and also get money from what it is that we love to do.
Absolutely.
So that's what I have, and I have the bit.ly link. And it's
is that the link to that program?
Yeah,
Okay.
Still Genius. So it's already started, but you can still sign up for it.
I love
And
it.
then
I
the
love
other
it.
thing I have, if you're on the East Coast, I have a retreat in Cape Cod.
Ooh, even if you're
Oct-
not on the East Coast, let's head
oh
to the
my
East
gosh.
Coast.
Yeah, we've rented such a beautiful place, and
Oh,
um, it's such a place of being able to, well, come together as a community like we are right now
yeah,
and just
yeah.
focus on
Mm.
yourself and your business and what you want your 2016 to look like.
I
So,
love it. So it's a preparation. It's preparation for 2016, but taking it from a spiritual perspective.
yeah. And, I'm pretty
Hmm.
practical too. So I want to make sure that people
You
have
are. I
pretty,
love that
yeah,
about
I
you.
want to make sure that people have good business plans for 2016 because if they
I
say,
love it.
I want to
I
make
love
this
it.
kind of money, then let's put a plan together for that. So
Oh,
that's kind
I
of
love
how I
that. And when
operate.
is
Oh,
that happening?
October 16th through the 18th.
Yes. I might have to
Yay.
come to the East Coast.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, we'd love to
Yeah,
have
I would totally do that. Oh,
you.
I totally would do that. I would totally do that.
Oh,
I want to thank everyone who was here and was participating and asking questions. And Asha, I want to thank you. That was so valuable. It was good information. And I love one thing that if I were to just say, this is the one thing that I love about you, it's your ability to really take that practical, like we're in business to make money, and the spiritual and how you take care of yourself and how you bridge those two. You do it beautifully. And I want to thank you
hmm.
so much for being my guest. And I know we're going to do this again, and we're going to have
Yay.
so much fun creating in this world of ours. And I know everyone that's here, you are all out there creating great things for yourself. I say take care of yourself first and make lots of money while you're doing it. So
Yes.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see you soon. Yeah, yes.
And I
And
know I promised some 9-star keys, so I'm going to put my email here. And if
okay.
you email me, I will figure out what your 9-star key is and the year that you're in so that you can be patient with yourself and know how to work with what you got around you.
I love it. I love it. And I just I put your
Thank
link in
you.
again because it went kind of high. So you guys make sure that you check out the chat for both Asha's email address so you can send her your birthday information and she'll help you get what's going on with your cycles. And then also go sign up for Still Genius. And I will see you very soon. Head on over to Thrive Entrepreneurs. We're going to post the recording. Make sure that you can see what we talked about today. If you missed it, then you'll definitely enjoy the recording. So I'll talk to y'all soon.
Thank you so much. You were amazing.
Thank you. No, you were too, Asha. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Bye. I'll talk to you. I'm going to head over to Facebook and start typing.
I love it.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much for being here.